call the meeting to order for the Wednesday, October 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. And we'll start off with roll call.
Steve Haken, Lake Enchantment.
Dennis Ferraro, Eagles Nest Road.
Bethany Cody, Lake Enchantment.
Jim Johnson, White Oak Drive.
Linda Winslow, Norwood Street.
Eric Powers, Staff Planner.
Jason McCarthy, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from previous meeting, October 11th, 2023.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is the time for public comment. If anyone would like to speak now on anything, you can come forward. Just a reminder, there will be a 3-minute time limit, and Bethany will be keeping time on that. And just to let all of you know, the item for 6B is not a public hearing, so you will not get a chance to speak on that at the time. So if you want to speak on it now would be the time.
And what is 6B?
6B.
What is that?
What is it? It's for the Longyear Realty.
Okay. Yeah, can I speak about that then, now?
Sure, come up.
Okay.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Brent Graves. My address is 115 Hidden Springs Drive. Hopefully, correct me if I'm wrong, because the only information I have is what was in the packet that was online for this meeting. But it appeared the Longyear development is something that could be very good for the township and the local area. And my concern is with the traffic. Right now, Forestville has more traffic than it can handle. Of course, Forestville, Wright Street intersection is a mess right now. And from what I read, it says that we don't know what we're going to do about all the added traffic, and we'll figure it out when 100 units are built. I think that'll approximately triple, at least, the amount of traffic going in and out of Forestville. And it's a mess right now. And I was just astounded that the idea is to just kick the can down the road and say, well, somebody else figure out what to do with it. Am I wrong about this? It says you can't build more than 100 units before we figure out how to deal with the traffic, basically. Is that correct?
We'll give you the information that we have on that when everybody's done.
Okay, well, I think that the Forestville Road and the Wright Street intersection is a big problem now, and I can't imagine not doing anything about it until, and letting the traffic triple without a plan. So that's my comment, and I really think just kicking down the can down the road for somebody else to deal with is really not a good idea. We need to have a plan on how to deal with this.
Good evening, Brian Kramer, 115 Huron-Woods Drive. Public health, safety, and welfare are all critical components in Article 13 for plan unit development. In the information packet, there's an informal email from the County Road Commission that was dated July 20th, 2022. It indicates no more than 100 homes can be built without improvements to the Forestville Wright Street intersection. There's also reference in that email that construction traffic should go through the north. That's a pretty poor statement because it can't be enforced. 8 months later, April 26, 2023, the Marquette County Road Commission sends an official letter to Mr. McCarthy. It changes and supersedes that July 22nd letter. It's this letter that you need to base tonight's decision on. 2 items I'd call out in that letter. Item 2 specifically states, improvements to Forestville are unfunded at this time, nothing's changed. It continues, and I'll quote, as previously stated, which in my opinion, there's other conversations that happen, but as previously stated, the existing geometry at the intersection of HD 492 Commerce Drive would not safely support the flow of traffic within this PUD application. Item K, 1302, states the PUD must provide safe and efficient vehicular movement. The County Road Commission clearly states it does not meet that standard. On October 18th, 2023, the County Road Commission provided another letter. Nothing's changed. That's the latest. There's no reference to 100 homes. It states the flow of traffic will not be safely supported. The PUD doesn't meet the requirements on several fronts in 1307. I and others have said the high-density development is out of scope for the neighborhood. I mentioned item K in 1302, traffic. County Road Commission says it's not safe. Item C in 1307, and similar to item D in 1302, states the proposed PUD will not possess conditions or effects that would be injurious to the public health safety committee, public health safety or welfare of the community. This is black and white. I don't think it's a difficult decision. The intersection is not safe. The intersection would not safely support the flow of traffic. Again, no reference to 100 homes. I think this development's about many things, including a need for housing in this community. It doesn't address affordable housing, but the principal decision should really be based on safety. Safety is a critical component required in approving this PUD, and I think as presented, the PUD creates a safety hazard that is known to many. I'm asking that you don't approve it in its present form. Not no approval ever. Please don't approve it in its present form. Thank you.
David Pesla, I live at 135 Forestville Road. I do own property on Wright Street, both sides, right up to the intersection. I own property all the way down Forestville Road on the left up to Heronwoods Drive. I'd like to request the Planning Commission to respectfully not approve the PD as is proposed. It does not meet requirements for approval on a number of fronts. The PD plays an unreasonable increase in the need to redesign Forestville Wright Street intersection, not meeting requirement 13.02 of item B in the development request. It creates a safety concern with increased flow of traffic for an inadequate intersection at Forestville and Wright Street. 13.02 item C. Item K is specific to traffic. The PUD must provide for safe and efficient movement of vehicles, and it does not. The County Road Commission, in their letter April 2023, which Brian just talked about, states the existing geometry at Forestville and Wright Street could not safely support the flow of traffic as presented within this PUD. Item 13.07, item B, the use of the land must be compatible with the surrounding use of land. It is rural residential. As requested, it's equal to urban lots. It's not compatible with the existing community there. Item C in 13.07 again references safety. This traffic and intersection is not safe as stated by the County Road Commission. It's clear all the requirements of 13.07 are not met and should not be approved. In the event you do move forward, I will be left with little in the way of options. You'll likely already know this, but for the others here, your decision tonight cannot be appealed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The only recourse for me would be to appeal to the Circuit Court within 30 days. The only way to get the Circuit Court to hear the appeal is to meet and qualify as an aggrieved person, which requires 3 items to be met. First, that person, which is me, must have participated in proceedings to contest the decision. I'm here, I am contesting. Second, the person must claim a legally protected interest. The interest is my land, which I own on both sides of Wright Street, all the way down Forestville Road. Third, there must be special damages from an actual or likely injury on my asserted interest that is different or more significant than others. I'm the only one that owns land that would likely be taken to address the intersection for the BUD. This would be the second time where taking of my land has occurred in this location. The exact same land that was taken for the initial Wright Street intersection, which turned out to be kind of a disaster for that intersection as it is. The only reason that this fits, the only reason that this intersection would need to change is because of this development. I share this with you because I believe I have a successful path to appeal should you support the PUD tonight. I also believe a reasonable person's interpretation of the PUD requirements will validate that this PUD does not meet all the requirements outlined in 13.07 for approval. Please do not approve the PUD in its present form. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I guess we'll close the public comment part of it and move on to new business. 6A, special use permit public hearing, number 102523-1. Proposed short-term rental land use to be located on property located within the urban residential zoning district. Parcel tax ID is 5208-360-07300. The applicant is Jennifer McCarthy, 2444 West Fair Avenue in Marquette. Jason or Eric?
Sure. So Ms. McCarthy and her husband are here. They have submitted all the requirements to have a public hearing for a proposed special use permit for a short-term rental at 2444 West Fair Avenue. This property is located within the zone urban residential district, although they do have a large lot considering the zoning district that they're in. And they've provided a narrative. We've provided the legal description by way of the county GIS system. And we have not received any comments regarding this application, for or against. So we notify everybody within 300 feet of the property. That's generated through an algorithm by taking each corner of the property and going out 300 feet. So they have all received letters, and there was also an advertisement placed in the newspaper. So the slide shows the address, the parcel location, and the zoning, and then the ad that was put in the newspaper. Yeah, we haven't had any problems with short-term rentals, thankfully. So this is their effort to utilize this property in that manner. And it is available by special use permit only in this zoning district. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, although the applicants are here as well to answer.
Did you have anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, I did have a couple neighbors reach out to me, but they were just wondering if I was going to build on my back lot. So they were in support. Didn't have any problems with it.
Anyone have any questions for them before we?
And just to reiterate, you're aware of the potential tax implications if you rent out the home more than 2 weeks out of the year, you lose your primary residence exemption. I told you about that.
Correct.
And then I know Mr. Ferraro usually asks who's going to maintain the short-term rental, should it be approved?
We are, yeah. We're right around the corner and we'll be managing it, keeping eyes on it and cleaning it ourselves.
So if it's approved, the applicant shall seek a Marquette Township business license after being inspected by the fire department with a satisfactory review. There's also provided you, Planner Powers here with a map showing the existing short-term rentals in the Trowbridge Park area. So this is basically all of section 16, or where more than 52% of our population resides. The green dots represent existing approved short-term rentals, and the blue dot is the applicant. And then you also have a spreadsheet showing the number of them that we have, which is roughly 25-ish.
And 11 in the area we're considering, is that correct?
Well, that's within the entire,
Right, because some of these out on 550, obviously, we're not considering those. We're just considering the 11 that are in this general area.
yes, sir,
Okay.
yep. And if you were to compare it to the city's requirements, you know, there's none on that block. Not that we have density requirements for them at this time. And there's only one other one on Fair Ave to the west.
none, any other questions, we'll open up the public hearing at 7:16. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:17. Commissioners, any comments, suggestions, motions?
I move to approve the special use permit as described in item 6A of tonight's agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Roll call.
Right. All right, then we'll have the roll call vote. Steve Hakinen,
Yes.
James Farrell,
Yes.
Bethany Cody,
Yes.
Linda Winslow.
Yes.
Tim Johnson's a yes. Unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you, McCarthy's, of no relation. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Good luck.
clarification.
Okay, moving on to 6B, Longview Realty Corporation's Forestville Community Phase 1A. Final plan unit development review. Per the Marquette Township zoning ordinance, Article 13, Section 13.06, parcel tax ID is 5208-008-00400. Applicant is Longview Realty Corporation, 210 North Front Street in Marquette. Jason or Eric?
I'll take this one, Eric. What do you think? Thanks for being here, whoever, all of you that are here, and for your thoughtful comments. And I wanted to give a little bit of background on how we got to this point and where we want to go. Or not we, but what we hope happens. And it's all about balance, right? So there are things, and I'm surprised Supervisor Durant didn't speak during public comment, but there are lots of things happening in the background in an effort to assist our growth. We are a growing community. Our population went from 3109 to 41, or I'm sorry, we grew 6% in the last census. And we've done that for a long time. One of the only growing townships in the community. A lot of these comments center around that intersection, and rightfully so. If the road commission had all the money in the world, or even if they were funded the way they were back in the 1980s, or if MDOT was funded the way they were back in the 1980s, and there was an unlimited budget, I'm sure that intersection would have already been corrected, because that is a growth area for us. We're zoned for residential development in that area. And I just think that we're a little bit hamstrung because, we don't control the roads in the township. We are zoned in a certain way. The road commission's well aware of what our zoning is and what our plans are. We've shared them. We have meetings on the regular. But there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes in multiple partnerships to address the intersection. And to Mr. Pesla's comment, this intersection needs to be fixed regardless of what happens there. It's an underperforming intersection, and I was surprised that you said that the only reason this intersection needs to be fixed is because of this development. We don't believe that to be true. We believe that it needs to be fixed regardless. And we are working behind the scenes diligently to make that happen. With that being said, I'm going to get into what the Planning Commission is in charge of and what their duties are in reviewing this project, and a little bit of background. So beginning in 2022, staff, this is a little bit before Eric got here, we met with Longview representatives to review plan concepts. This is all right out of the ordinance language if you have trouble sleeping at night and want to read through it. And there were no decisions made. There were just concepts shared and ideas that went back and forth. the first thing we brought up was the intersection. And then on September 28th of 2022, they met with the Planning Commission and shared their ideas. There were no decisions made at that meeting either. It was, again, a sharing of ideas and providing context to some of the Longyear's proposals. On Wednesday, April 2023, and per our ordinance, Longyear submitted a preliminary PUD application, and all of that information was sent out to regulatory agencies who are in charge of things that we are not in charge of, i.e. roads, i.e. Transmission lines for utilities, things of that nature. And they provided those comments back to us. And then on June 28th, the Planning Commission held a duly called public hearing and approved the Forestville Community's preliminary PUD application for Phase 1A only. Taking into context comments that were made by the public, issues with the design of the intersection as it currently states, and things that are a challenge. But also, I believe, not speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission, but in an effort to somewhat address the housing issue in this community and allow for land uses that are rightfully within the zoning district that they're proposing to develop in. This isn't resource production or industrial land. This is residentially zoned property. So that happened. And as such, then the next step in the process tonight is to review the final PUD. So the public hearing happened, and the final PUD is kind of like a site plan review. Each meeting that we've had, there's been more detail provided by Longyear for the Planning Commission to consider, which coincides with the provisions found in our zoning ordinance. Up until 2 years ago, and I've been here since 2011, thankfully back to the community and serving, we haven't had a planned unit development. The only two we've ever had have been in the last 2 years. So this is a tool that's been in the zoning ordinance for some time, and it's been exercised twice in the last 2 years, to my knowledge, the only two that we've ever reviewed. So with that being said, we get into the submittal that was provided by Longyear for Phase 1A only. And that entails 16 dwelling units, 9 townhomes, 7 single-family homes. Obviously, that would entail the extension of utilities and the development of roads and drives. And there's a number of different housing types that we're going to show you that are being proposed. And they have some, you guys obviously named them, so we'll go through those really quick. These are all requirements of the submittal. So this is the area, if you planning commissioners look at their plan or their plan sheets, and you received quite a bit of information. I didn't include all the I will say boring stuff for you to consider, utility details, lift station design. I didn't include that. Those are required by state law to meet a certain standard, and I didn't feel that it was pertinent to this discussion tonight. Tonight's more about height and bulk, zoning, traffic, etc. So this is the area that we're looking at. This is the Abbey site plan. And if you will, I will say that some of these lots initially that were shown to you in the preliminary actually got a little bit larger. And you can see they meet setback requirements for, like an urban zoning district. Floor plan here, and then a quick elevation. So this is the style and quality that is being proposed.
Is that the 1,500 square foot unit?
No, that is about, 16 to 17, I think. It's our smallest single family.
Okay, would you like to talk about the next one here?
Sure.
So come up to the podium. Yes,
Okay,
please.
Sorry. Alyssa Arwood, Longyear. So yeah, the first one we saw was the Abbey. That's our smallest single-family home. And then this one is the Helen, so it's a duplex style. This is 1,500 square feet on the first floor. Everything is single-story, but optional basements where they apply and where you can build them at. The Helen can be a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. So this is And there's alternate options too. Each of the home designs will have different things that people can do to customize them a tad. So for this one, you could add on a second bedroom or leave it a little bit more open and just have like an open office space or something like that.
And this is the duplex variety elevation.
Yep.
And the Helen?
Yep, Helen, again, this is a quadplex, so they can butterfly one another. And, you know, you've got all your garages on one side, you have your formal kind of, you know, where you have guests in on the other side. So the side with the garages is actually the side that'll face the street. So we tried to design them to be nice too, so they're kind of attractive on the backside. And they don't really change, you know, they can just be, you can do as many of them as you want, or you can butterfly them, but that's the elevation. And then these are all single-family homes moving from here. So this is the John, and I apologize, I can't remember the square footages off the top of my head, but they go from about 1,700 square feet all the way up to around 2,100 square feet is the biggest one. So you know, again, you can do an office, you can change some things about it if you want to. They all have 2-car garages. And then Judith, I think this is actually our largest one.
So a variety.
A variety, yep, and customizable.
So you get a taste of the fit and finish style of what they're proposing to do here. So again, we're reviewing this evening because the only thing that the Planning Commission gave approval for would be 16 dwelling units. These are your single-family homes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the first iterations that we looked at were either a townhome or a quad or a duplex. So those are situated closer to Forestville Road. These are the streets that would be created. Some, I guess, just guest parking.
Guest parking, trail access parking, and
Trail access
mailboxes.
parking. Okay.
Yep.
So out of the 240 some homes that were proposed and what the road commission initially commented on as far as what the PUD that they reviewed, we're looking at this right now.
Strictly that.
Strictly that, yes, sir. And
That's all we're gonna approve tonight is this.
Well, you're contemplating it, whether you approve it or not,
Okay,
that's
but
up
that,
to you.
if it were to be approved, it is that and only that.
Correct. And then to back up and talk about the road commission's correspondence to me and my reaching out to them, we are not traffic engineers. We do not control the roads in the township. We rely on the road commission, their engineers, and their experts to provide us with any thresholds that they see fit, or there was a number of things that Longyear needs to meet. The road commission correspondence that was referenced by the gentleman indicated that the intersection would not support the PUD as proposed. We are not approving what was initially proposed, and that is 240 units. This is way scaled back in an effort to, and if I may, allow some residential development to occur, but to also allow time for staff, the road commission, and our other partners to work on a permanent solution or an alternative access to this development prior to allowing the development to get to where the initial PUD was suggested, okay? I think 100 units is gonna take them 10 years to absorb, if not more. Interest rates are high. There's a number of factors that are involved that we contemplate. However, the Planning Commission approved Phase 1A. That's what this is tonight. That's the only thing that they're looking at. And each phase, and the ordinance addresses this, every time that Longyear wants to add additional structures or dwellings, they have to come back before the planning commission, which means you guys have the opportunity to come and speak again, or to see what kind of progress the township has made with the road commission and their requirements to address the intersection, as they are they own the roads. So I'll just say that.
I have a question, Jim.
Yes, sir.
So when the preliminary PUD was approved in June,
Yes, sir.
was it only to approve 1A?
Yes.
What is the timeframe in which the developer, Longyear, would have to come to the planning commission to go to
Phase 1B,
phase 1B?
24 months. Yep.
Can I ask a question to Ms. Arwood? Ms. Arwood, do you have any concept now as to when you would be coming back to the planning commission for application for phase 1B? What are the plans of
Yeah,
Longyear?
it's a good question. I would say that probably when these 16 units are either just about to be occupied or maybe 3 months ahead of occupation of these, we'd get going on the next submission. So we'd like to kind of be able to stack them and keep moving because we're.
And given the tremendous job that you've done on organization and presentation, when do you anticipate that that would occur?
Well, if we were to be able to hopefully get through this, be able to hopefully break ground in spring, it would probably take 9-10 months for the townhomes to be built. The single-family homes might lag a little bit. We're a little bit short on residential labor right now, residential builder labor, so single-family homes are a little bit tougher to get online. So I could think maybe, end of 2024, early 2025, we'd be gearing up to come back and speak with you again on the next phase.
Just to clarify, the road commission did reiterate that after 100, or prior to 100 units being constructed, that a serious look at that intersection would need to be taken. That's their commentary back to me. In fact, the letter, we had to submit to them for the final PUD in the same way that we did with the preliminary. And when I received the letter back from the road commission, it didn't really address that number. I asked for some specificity with regard for the planning commission's information about a threshold, and they reiterated, basically relaying back to the letter from April. So when they said, nothing changed, it just said it didn't change because we're not going to allow more than 100 units.
So another question for you, Jason, then. When Longyear would come back, say, at the end of 2024 or early in 2025 to go to phase 1B, would that process require a public hearing?
Not necessarily, but it would require another submittal to the regulatory agencies that have already reviewed the project.
Thank you.
Moving on. This is the utility layout that's proposed. This is within the site. We'll get to the required road information, or the utilities along the road too. But this just shows, and it's kind of hard to see on here, honestly, but that's why I gave you guys large sets of plans to review. But just basically water and sewer. The area will be served by water and sewer, which should create some redundancy for other residents in the area. And I just added this, so here's the Forestville intersection here. The development's further downstream, but essentially the water main ends at Huron Woods Drive and terminates probably a manhole pass, which is typically by ordinance, so it stops there. They will continue that 8-inch water main as it is up to the development, and then they will introduce a 6-inch sanitary force main to the development. That'll all be coordinated through the Public Works Department, and they have preliminary reviewed the plans. I know you've been in discussion with Superintendent Bodanis and the crew. So this is just a zoomed in version of what's being considered tonight. So you've got your 7 single families and then the smaller. I guess I want to note the variety of housing types that are being offered, and how we've talked about recently from a zoning perspective about accessory dwelling units, about introducing potentially duplexes into the Trowbridge Park area and having some of those areas that may not work for development of a single family home in an area on an undeveloped right of way. But if you had different housing types, it might make it more financially feasible to allow that type of development. So from planning principles are changing, and especially with the housing crisis. Eric and I just got back from the Michigan Planning Conference. There was 520-something planners there, and not to get too far off course, but to the point, housing is a major issue, and density is something that should be considered, but the term that should be utilized more is proximity. Proximity to education, proximity to healthcare, proximity to recreational opportunities, and the like. And so density is becoming less important from a planner's perspective. Proximity to amenities is more important. That was a key takeaway. Delving further into the site plan submittal and requirements that were provided. This is their kind of a landscape legend for this area, so pretty rudimentary at this point. That'll get firmed up later on. Typical street lighting, and although we don't require full cutoff downcast dark sky lighting for residential, they are proposing full cutoff downcast lighting for their development, which is nice, thank you. And entry signs and other signage throughout the site. So just showing some basic cross sections with improvements in landscaping. And then these all appear to be native plants to the area.
Mm-hmm.
Low slung monument signs, so not the typical stuff you'd see along the corridor. And some different type of signage throughout the site, which appears to be in alignment with our sign ordinance. Lighting standards. So the Planning Commission's had this information since our last meeting. They've had plenty of time to review it. If you look through the PUD language, the Planning Commission is charged with addressing the following items. Let's see. I won't read through it all, but they basically need to determine whether there's compliance with 1302, which are the qualifying conditions, and 1307, which is the standards for approval. So the standards for approval, they have to contemplate individually each of the following. A, the proposed PUD complies with all the qualifying conditions of section 1302. B, the proposed PUD is compatible with individual land uses or surrounding uses of land, so residential. The natural environment, and the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the development. The proposed uses within the PUD will not possess conditions or effects that would be injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. Item D, the proposed project is consistent with the purpose and intent of the PUD as described in section 1301 and represents an opportunity for improved or innovative development for the community that could not be achieved through conventional zoning. And E, the proposed PUD meets all the site plan requirements of this article and the provisions of Article 18 Site Plan Review, Article 1807 respective of being either a preliminary or final PUD request. Preliminary PUDs must meet section 1305 and final PUDs must meet 1306. So the Planning Commission needs to contemplate those standards in 1307 and the qualifying conditions in 1301. And if the Planning Commission would like, I could remind you of what those ones are if you need. However, I suspect that you've read those as a result of the staff recommendation that was provided to you. I will say that there were additional attachments to the staff report. One was the commentary from ATC, which is pretty standard stuff for any development that's within a certain proximity to their transmission lines. And then obviously what's been talked about the most, the correspondence from the Marquette County Road Commission and Mr. Alex Elsenheimer. So with that, I would turn it over to the chair for your deliberations.
Okay, looking for comments from
Yeah,
everyone?
I got a question for Jason. At the June meeting, in your preamble to this addressing the request for preliminary approval, there was a discussion of the stormwater management plan. And I haven't seen any stormwater management plan.
Yeah, we have the Cadillac, Denny, of stormwater ordinances, probably much to the chagrin of Mr. Nancaro and his planning efforts. I did bring this up to both Alyssa and Kevin based on your comment at the last meeting, and they are more than happy to address those questions. But there are a number of areas in one of the sheets that I should have included based on your question. I didn't include it on this presentation, but there should be some areas in the plans that Kevin can speak to.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at C-107, and that's the only document of that big roll that indicates any storm sewer. And I looked at the stormwater management ordinance. I brought a copy with me tonight. And it says that the Planning Commission is to be provided with a copy of the stormwater management plan. Either, well, it was supposed to be provided at the preliminary approval. And it's quite a detailed plan, according to the, it says here, the stormwater management plan must be submitted to the administrator with a copy to the Marquette Township Planning Commission at the same time as an application for a preliminary site plan approval or preliminary plat approval. And the Article 5 talks about all the contents of the stormwater plan. And if you review those, it's very detailed. I mean, it's one here, I'll just quote, shall include a stormwater narrative describing how the stormwater plans comply with the county rules in this ordinance. I think it even has a section here where they talk about identifying soil content, soil types and so forth. A soil survey, a written description of soil types on the site. We haven't seen any of this, and my concern is, and perhaps Alyssa can address this, but first of all, I mean, can we even go forward at this time in approving this plan without having the Planning Commission been provided a copy of a stormwater management plan?
Well, we have in other cases,
Well, according to the ordinance,
Understood.
we're not, it's not being.
development happens in phases, right? So we have things that need to be met. Well, you know, if a plan comes together and it's approved, usually it's approved with conditions. You have the opportunity tonight to approve, deny, or approve with conditions. It says right in the language. I believe you did include a stormwater sheet. There is a, and if Kevin, you want to speak to that, that would probably help.
Well,
I think what the commissioner's concerns are.
Is that C-107? Is this what you're talking about?
No, this is not.
Okay, because I couldn't.
This is the schedule of all the manholes.
Yeah, well, this shows a stormwater sewer going into the infiltration. Well, I don't have them all here, but I went through the whole set today, and I just cut out.
Tell me what sheet that's on.
So we have a large.
Yeah, just show us, because he's got the whole thing.
Grading plan, and then it's tied in, but you can't see.
Okay, so your stormwater plan meets the requirements of the ordinance, is that correct?
Yes, so
It
we have
does.
this information, we have borings and things like that that we can provide.
I just wonder why it hasn't been provided to us. And the concern is, and I'm, you know, you're right next to the, for example, you show storm sewers going to this infiltration unit, but then you also show a storm sewer going to this infiltration unit, which is right next to this wetland going into the Dead
So
River.
this portion's not detailed because it's not part of this phase, but this would be a swale check dam.
Right.
And then this would be dammed off to create a basin without getting into there. So what we are doing is using best management practices. You can get on the EPA's website. The main thing about handling stormwater is slowing it down and keeping it on site, which is exactly what we're proposing. Typically, the ordinance is to prevent runoff off the property. And in this case, we have a lot of property to work with. So we are containing all the stormwater to the property.
Well, you know, I guess another question I would have of you, both of you, is, so I see that there's going to be some grass planted around the townhomes. So you're going to be putting fertilizer on the grass. Presumably, I guess your G&J Site Solutions, is that going to be your landscaper?
Yes, so they've done the landscaping design. Right now, there's not going to be any common areas that really have manicured lawns where you don't see anything specifically called out. We're attempting to keep it as much natural forest floor as we can.
Right,
So-
but around the perimeter of, in front of each home, I looked at your landscaping
Sure.
plan, and there's strips with grass and so forth.
Sure, yeah.
So
And
there's gonna be fertilizer on there, there's also gonna be runoff from the streets and so forth, and I'm just wondering, you know, what you've contemplated in terms of protecting, and salt, for example, what you've contemplated in terms of protecting the runoff into the Dead River, because one of your storm sewers goes right into an infiltration area that's right next to a wetland, which is right next to the river. So infiltration goes down, gets in between whatever the rock strata is there, goes into the wetland, goes into the river. So, I mean, without I would think we should probably have some kind of stormwater management plan approved by the county, and also, I don't know whether this is part of the whole thing, the stormwater management plan, but the soil erosion control permit application, has this been applied for?
No, we haven't done any permitting yet, as we're still in
Okay,
this
okay, that
process,
comes
yes.
later.
Yeah, that will
Okay.
come later, certainly. Yeah.
Right.
So I guess what I was gonna say is that the basin that you're concerned with is not part of this phase. So that's why detail wasn't really provided for that one. It shows that line running there, but we're not gonna run a storm sewer you know, hundreds of feet down that hill for no reason. It's gonna terminate up higher, it's gonna be filtered on the way, but again, that's gonna be a review for a further phase down the road.
And I will note as well, I'll let Kevin always speak to engineering stuff, but within our HOA, first of all, for any of the common areas, we won't be utilizing fertilizer or pesticides or anything like that. I just can't see us managing it in that way. But within the HOA language, we can also tell people, you know, there's specific fertilizers that are, you know, that you can't use. So if you're going to be doing that on your own private lawn, use something that's natural or don't use anything at all. But at least for the common areas that we're specifically controlling as, you know, the HOA, we won't be doing any of that.
So you would have your, whoever
Like our maintenance
took
crew.
care of the
Yeah.
maintenance, who would comply with the Phosphate Control Act in Michigan?
Whatever we need to do to make sure that there's not anything toxic, we would certainly adhere to that, definitely. I don't think there's any interest in doing that.
Okay. Thank
And,
you.
the concerns are valid because that's when you do have issues with fertilizer or pesticide runoff is when you have surface water. So that's the entire point of the infiltration basins is they help to filter that. And the one that we're looking at for this phase is closer in proximity to Forestville Road than.
Right, I see that, right. But then, so you're not gonna have, in other words, you're saying that this particular stormwater, well, I mean, actually, it runs right to the, it borders your Phase 1A, the swale is right next to your townhouses here and your single family, right here. See, here it is, right here, right? This is the broken line here, and it continues right here. So your swale, right along Monroe Drive, on the other side of Monroe Drive, is your swale going all the way into the infiltration unit, which is right next to the wetland, next to the dead river. You see what I'm saying? Here it is, right here. I'll just draw on here for you. So that is part of your.
No, we are running this back that way, I know for sure.
Well, I mean.
It might be hidden under this curb.
Well, you're running it both ways. You're running it to this infiltration pond here, and you're running it over here to this infiltration pond.
Jason, may I add something or ask a question? I think also the stormwater management plan is also something that I believe has to be agreed upon in the development agreement to get the PUD moving.
It's a
Right.
highly scrutinized part of development in Marquette Township.
Well, I know, but I just read the ordinance, and it said we're supposed to be provided with a copy of it. That's what I'm trying to wonder why we didn't get a copy.
Yeah, I think it stipulates site plan or plat review, which I guess PUD's not really technically, but it still qualifies and still will be reviewed. You know, their plan has to be approved by the county, has to be approved by us.
So if the planning commission would approve this tonight with the condition that a detailed stormwater management plan be submitted, would that be submitted then prior to any construction, and would it be submitted to the planning commission for the planning commission to review?
You can review it if you like, it's required regardless.
To pull the permit, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's required to pull the permits.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just want to reiterate, we are doing everything by the book, by EPA standards for addressing your concerns with our basins, keeping it on site.
Nobody in this room wants to
Yeah.
get anything into the basin, which eventually goes to Lake Superior. I mean, hopefully we're 50 years beyond those things. I remember working in Ashland, there was sanitary, a couple left where it was sanitary and sewer together dumping out in Chequamegon Bay. That no longer is allowed to happen. Obviously, they were grandfathered in there, but no, we're way beyond that at this point. We have a great stormwater management plan, and we'll get you all the information that you could ever use.
So whoever would make a motion tonight to approve this, would that person or persons attach a condition that this,
Yes, yeah, that's reasonable.
that we would have a chance to look at the stormwater management plan?
Is that reasonable for you also, as well?
We'd be.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide it if you think I guess the information is lacking for, so we'll provide it.
It's just that it's required by the ordinance, that's all.
Yeah.
You know, that we're supposed to be able to get a copy of it and see it, even prior to we approve the first time, or prior to the planning commission approving in the first instance. I just had a question for Alyssa then, please. So on the Helen units, which are the 1,500 square foot units,
Yes.
when you were here in September of 2022, you indicated that the price point for that particular unit was at $400,000. Is that still the price point, or is it increased or decreased?
I will tell you that right now, cost to build is never gonna go below $300 a square foot. So,
So you're at least, it's still at 400,000?
yes.
Okay. And do you have, for the 16 units that we're considering tonight, do you already have legal commitments to purchase?
No, we do not. We didn't want to do any of that before this meeting, and obviously before the development agreement and permitting. There's a long ways to go before we have people signed up.
Do you have a waiting list for those 16 units?
Yes, we have a total waiting list. We have 357 people signed up,
Okay.
and 230 of those individuals are from Marquette County.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks. No further questions from me.
Yeah, I'll go. So I'm reading the letter that dated October 13th, 2023, from the Marquette County Road Commission to Jason McCarthy regarding their review of the final plan unit development that was submitted to them. And they say that items that they had requested be put into the final PUD weren't addressed. There were items 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, and 1G from their letter of April 26, 23, and A is the clear vision requirements weren't depicted on the plans. They're not depicted on this set of plans. Is there a reason why?
They were actually sent out in response to the preliminary. I actually met with the road commission
Oh,
on,
are they on the final set of plans?
the clear vision triangles weren't shown on those.
That's what they reviewed, right?
But
The
they
final PUD plan, the road commission reviewed those plans, which is what we asked them to do, and those weren't on there. So they're not on there. Is that correct? So let's go on to 1B.
Right.
Is the confirmation of the adequate intersection site distance along all access points along County Road HD, has that been accomplished? Is that indicated on the PUD, final PUD set?
So we submitted a response with the preliminary.
We're not talking about preliminary, we're talking about the final that they reviewed. We asked them to review the final, and those items weren't put on there. Is there a reason why?
That's what I'm trying to explain. There
Okay.
were some uncertainties with the clear vision triangles.
Okay?
And we met with the road commission on site and had the driveways staked out.
Okay, and what date was that?
It was on Tuesday.
This Tuesday?
Yeah, because we didn't get those comments until Friday.
Okay, let's go on
We
then.
didn't have a
Okay,
chance
so
to
the
respond.
proposed development cannot increase stormwater drainage into the right-of-way. Is that going to be done?
Yeah,
Is that shown on the plans?
yeah.
They say it's not.
Well, it's because the drainage ditch that's shown, it daylights back into the property, and that was the missing part that they weren't sure on.
Okay, so let's go on to D. The stormwater outlet should be provided to the development's on-water stormwater management on any access point entering into the Marquette County Road Commission facilities. On the beach's access drive point, are those included on your final plan?
Yes, so that's what we're.
They're
doing.
included on the final plan that they say that are not included on the final plan?
They're, can I show you?
Let me just show you the letter. It says they're not on the plan. You say they are.
It's because we didn't show structures on one of the intersections because we're spilling, which the road commission.
Do we have an updated letter from the road commission on this? You met with them yesterday on this?
We met with them yesterday, we met with them today, but let me say it, we usually get a chance to respond to those comments, and we
Okay.
did not. They were
We got them
delivered
on
late last week, we got them
Friday.
Friday.
Okay, but they asked you for those on the first set too, on the first letter. Okay, so let's go
Right,
on.
we had
Whoa,
sent
whoa,
out-
whoa.
Steve, let's.
I'm asking questions.
Take a breath here.
I'm asking,
Take a breath
I'm
here.
asking questions.
Okay, let's do it
Okay,
continually.
okay, let's do it. They say it's not on the final set of plans. Is it or is it not on that set of plans that we have?
Not everything on that list, because some of it was.
That's the only thing that we can go by, isn't it?
Right, and
That's what we're reviewing, is the final set that you provided to us. that the road commission said wasn't addressed. Do you have supplemental drawings to show that to give to us tonight?
Mr. Heikkinen, if I may?
Yeah.
Let me just say something. Completely understand your point. We got these comments on Friday. We
Okay.
met with the road commission now 2 to 3 times this week. We met
Okay.
with them this morning even.
Okay,
There were some mix-ups between what we had and how it was all interpreted and how it was all communicated.
okay,
If you were to make any sort of conditions tonight, that condition that was part of the PUD approval, it could still be another condition that we absolutely 100% satisfy those things. It could definitely be a condition, it already is a condition.
And
So-
just to add on to that, we still have to pull driveway and right-of-way permits with the county after this, but we can't do that. The county is gonna look at it and issue their permit after we go through this.
okay, and the plans do not detail the proposed impacts on County Road HD. And we're also the site distance requirements, when is that going to be done? Item
That's what-
1B?
That's what we reviewed yesterday on the field on site, because that's the best way to do it.
Okay, so was the site distance obtained?
So with 55 miles an hour through there,
Mhm.
which it is,
Mhm.
one of the entrances might need to be tweaked depending on the clearing through the trees,
Okay,
what that looks like.
so
we
that's
gotta
that's
check
not
that.
on your set of plans either then? None of that?
We are currently detailing all of that now that we've got the real world, interaction from the road commission by being on
Okay,
site.
so what are we looking at here? I mean, you say this is the final set of plans. They say that it's not on the final set of plans. They're saying that they met with them yesterday. I mean, what are we considering here?
You have the opportunity to approve the project or deny it or approve it with conditions.
Fair enough.
Steve, this is a very complex project.
And I understand, and I want every I dotted and every T crossed on it if it's so complex then too.
And it's-
I don't want them saying, oh, we're gonna take care of that. That, to me, that isn't dotting every I and crossing every T. When they said there should be a completed stormwater plan submitted with the preliminary, and it wasn't, oh, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, well, it's required.
It's required, but they didn't do it.
They are in the process we're looking at a number of things. I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Fair enough.
But I would just say that if we had a chance to respond to those comments, and if the road commission had reviewed our response to those comments in the preliminary submittal, a lot of this would have been addressed before we got a chance to talk to you.
Okay, how long was the road commission given to respond to this? When did they weren't they given 30 days?
They have 15.
15 days, and we got it on October 18th. When did they get it? October 3rd?
Steve, I'd have to look through my emails. As soon as the information was received, it was transmitted to each of the regulatory agencies per the ordinance.
Okay. I'm good.
Anyone else have any comments?
Jason, can you just do some clarification for me on the road commission on that intersection, their concerns? When they had said that they had concerns after 100 houses?
Well, I think everybody's got concerns now, including the road commission. But it's very hard, even the road commission indicated, it's really hard to know what the impact of development's gonna be until it gets going. Like,
Where did the 100 houses come from?
came from the road
Road
commission.
commission. And it was their recommendation that the road was safe.
Well, we can all agree it's an
Up until-
underperforming intersection. It's, quite honestly, it's one of the more dangerous intersections in the county that we are working diligently to resolve in some manner. And that includes, you can't exact off-site improvements from a developer. The road commission has to be able to work with the communities that they serve in order to improve the roadways in the intersections that development is zoned to occur. And so we're working to address that. The road commission indicated that no more than 100 units can be constructed prior to some, and it actually doesn't say any significant improvement, I don't think. It just said we need to take a look at it in more detail. I can read the exact verbiage. Our recommendation is to have all construction traffic go to the north of development with analysis of the existing intersection need to be revisited once there are more than 100 units developed with the proposed PUD to determine if any action is to be taken. We want to get to it way before that. And then, like I said, if money wasn't an object, and it wasn't so difficult to secure, then we'd already be improving it based on the future. But I believe at the preliminary planning commission meeting, although it was a split vote, that the planning commission desired to have some sort of balance with development and traffic. You know, you're looking at 16 dwelling units this evening. I think that's less than that are in Huron Woods. So, you know, I was out there on Sunday, leaf peeping, like a bunch of other people. There was a lot of traffic on the road. Still made my turning movements, and you know, so did a lot of other people. I didn't hear of any accidents over the weekend, but it's a popular area, and we want to address it not only from a residential development standpoint, but it's access to some high-quality recreational opportunities. And hopefully, like I said, that entire right-of-way through the Fly Ash Road, hopefully that's all taken care of in the next 5 to 10 years. And we can provide some relief from that particular intersection.
Well, all these issues are what we had talked about when we approved this. And what we're supposed to do tonight is the Planning Commission shall review the final PUD plan in relation to its conformance with the preliminary development plan and its conditions of approval, if any. If it's determined that the final plan is not in substantial conformance with the preliminary PUD plan, the review process shall be conducted as a preliminary PUD plan review in accordance with section 1305. We've already approved the first one. This is pretty much the same as what we approved. So I don't see what we have to go over right now. We're gonna have other issues coming up in the next phases that we can talk about then. But just to get the project started, I don't see any reason why we don't have to vote on this tonight. If somebody wants to make a motion?
Well, I would, Jim, you read the, excuse me for just a moment here. Right, so the planning commission tonight is supposed to talk about 1307. And you should review those, at least for the public's sake, what those are. The PUD complies with all the qualifying conditions in 1302.
So we're back to considering whether 1302 has been met.
Well, you are.
Okay.
I believe the only challenge in 1302 would be the comment about general health, safety, and welfare with respect to traffic, but you didn't approve the entire PUD, and even in the preliminary PUD review, you didn't approve the entire PUD. You're making an effort to have balance with what's happening. At least that was my take on it. But you guys are the ones that get paid the big bucks to make these decisions.
Well, everything I've read in 1307 is something that we discussed, you know, for hours before at the other one, and I don't see any difference in any of the arguments. And the water pressure has been taken care of, the density and the road is going to be taken care of one way or the other, whether or not there's going to be a project. So I guess to me, that's all we're supposed to look at 1307. And as far as the public health, safety, and welfare, that's, if the road is taken care of, then there's not really anything to discuss as that. as
Well, what
far
I'd
as
like
that.
you to do is, okay, so 1307A, we just covered, you know, that requires us to determine that it met the preliminary conditions. You guys have essentially done that already by way of holding a public hearing on the preliminary. Item B, the proposed PUD is compatible with the surrounding uses of land. What are the surrounding uses of land? It's residential. What's being proposed? Residential. The natural environment, more than 50% of the property is being held in common area. The capacity of public services and facilities affected by the development. They're extending water and sewer to the site. Item C, the proposed uses within the PUD will not possess conditions that affect or would be injurious to public health, safety, and welfare. The proposed use is residential. The proposed project is consistent with the purpose and intent of the PUD as described in section 1301 and represents an opportunity for improved or innovative development for the community that could not be achieved through conventional zoning. Conventional zoning would prevent you from having anything other than single-family homes. Conventional zoning would require you to have a 5-acre minimum based on the existing zoning. The proposed PUD shall meet the requirements of this article and the provisions of the site plan review article. That's where I think both Denny and Mr. Hakinen can, if you so choose to move forward with this tonight, include your conditions to have the road commission's requirements addressed, and of course the stormwater, which would be, they're required either way. They're not gonna, if we approve anything tonight, or if the planning commission does, they're not gonna get any farther than the county with regard to stormwater, and they're not gonna get any farther with the county with regard to the road commission before addressing the issues.
You know, I wish I could approve this PUD. I wish I could vote to approve it because it looks beautiful. It's designed well, it's, you know, very nice. I can't approve it because I don't think it meets the requirements of 13, section 13, specifically 1302D, which refers to not only public health and safety, but welfare, and 1302H, which talks about being consistent with the goals and objectives of the master plan, which then, in the master plan, we're talking about an adequate supply of housing for all residents. And I'm not going to go through all the news articles and so forth that I cited last time. I'll just want to incorporate them by reference as to why my facts are solid in terms of the need for workforce housing here and what that means. And workforce housing really doesn't come near a $400,000 unit. Now, I'm not faulting you for, you never intended to do that, but that's part of my problem. I think that, you know, perhaps with the legacy that Longyear has in the community, maybe if not on this one, maybe on the next one, you should consider something like that. But I can't vote for it. I'm not so concerned with the safety issue because we've approved, we just approved a daycare down the street. We approved something on the corner of Wright Street and Commerce, which is office building. And I don't think we ever talked about how many customers were going to be there or how many other added traffic was going to impact this bad intersection in the first place. So I understand the concerns, but I in terms of what the planning commission, you know, I don't, that's not my problem. My problem is that it doesn't address something that's very needed in this community. In fact, I think they just even decided to spend $50,000 to appoint a housing czar here to try to solve this problem. So it's a problem. But Anyway, so I'm gonna vote against this, but I would hope that if anybody votes for it, and if the votes for are higher than the votes for nay, that as a condition, there would be, that a stormwater management plan would be developed and submitted.
So I'll make the motion, because I really do think that we need to move on from this, and I think that we're looking at not a lot of units to start, that's what I'll say, and we're looking at maybe maximum 32 people in those units. So that's 32 more cars in and out at differing times of the day. Probably less than the leave peepers going in and out of that road. And I also believe that the road commission is responsible for the roads. They are responsible for that intersection. I wish and hope all of you with the road concerns attend their meetings in force and tell them what you think. Because we, as a township, can do nothing about that intersection other than what we're doing behind the scenes. So get up there and make your voice heard. We've heard it, they need to hear it. They're the people. I'll make the motion that we approve the final planned unit development, phase 1A, with the conditions that the planning commission get the stormwater control plan as required in the reference from Denny, and that the road commission requirements are met, and we get a copy from the road commission saying they're met. So those are the two. I do think that this is really valuable from the perspective of houses cost $400,000 in Marquette Township. One in my little neighborhood on Norwood Street. It's not out of the question anymore, folks. Sad to say. They're not going down around here. And those of us in the audience and sitting here, we're not selling our property for any less money. We're not gonna allow people from workforce housing to buy our house for $100,000 or even $200,000. They are $400,000, and that is the sad truth. So that is my motion. And now,
Is there support for the motion?
I'll support.
Okay, any further discussion?
ask for a roll call vote.
It's not a roll call vote.
But I can ask, right, Jason?
I don't think it's unreasonable.
All right, roll call vote. Steve Hakinen,
Yes.
Danny Ferraro,
No.
Bethany Cody,
Yes.
Tony Winslow,
Yes.
and Johnson, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck. Okay. Moving on to 7, unfinished business, none at this time. Correspondence, none at this time.
Correct?
Township Board report, Linda Winslow.
Oh my goodness, it was like fun at the township meeting. It's always fun, next to the tent. We paid all our bills, that's always great. We sold our surplus wide format scanner. We are going to be looking at surplus equipment and offering it for sale within the next year, so watch for some items that we'll put out on the web. We did have a report from Bob Hendrickson, who is our representative or the new administrator for the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. You guys know that?
All right.
He did a nice job. Greg Seibert came and discussed the holiday parking issue. I'm all about that. For those of you who love those holiday decorations, they tend to park on both sides of the road. And for emergency vehicles, they can't get through. So if you're one of those parkers, please park on one side. We talked about what we could do to solve that, and it is an issue, that's what I'll say. Other than that, I think that was it. We had a lot of notes, like Lenny needs to pick up the hoses that he hauls out for me every year so I can water those beautiful flowers, okay? But, any questions? Come on, you guys.
Plowing,
Plowing, oh my gosh, yeah, we love plowing. We can't even
plowing,
get them to
anything
park on
happening with that?
one side of the road, Jim. I don't know how we'd ever get them to plow. I don't know, just
coming
use your
next week.
plow again. No, we haven't had our meeting with the road commission yet, okay? So we'll make sure we let everyone know when that's gonna happen, right, Lynn? Right. Yeah, because you can come to that meeting too.
All right. 9B, Rec Committee report, if there is one.
Rec committee didn't meet this month due to lack of agenda items. I will say that the proposed trailhead off of Grove and our subsequent Wellhead Road, there was additional information that was requested. We did submit that that information with the grant, so the final grant application has been sent, and we should hear on that in mid-December whether we're successful or not.
Who is that, who is the grantor?
The Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund.
Oh, okay, the trust fund.
So your oil and gas tax that you pay, that goes into a kitty, it gets doled out since the late 60s, I think, in an effort to create recreational lands.
And what did we ask for? How much money?
Ooh, good question.
Ballpark.
I believe it was
Over 100,000?
yes,
Okay,
yeah, but under 3.
okay.
Yeah, I think it was like 150,000, of which NTN provided the majority of the match, and the township board provided some as well.
Yeah.
So that's a collaborative project with NTN. Oh, yeah, although it wasn't discussed, it was discussed at the previous meeting, but the Recreation Committee basically desired to submit a capital improvement project request for resurfacing of the Lions Field tennis court to include both pickleball and tennis court linings in the new surface and some netting. So that'll be discussed during the budget sessions by the board.
And at the budget session, we did discuss those items, and we will be bringing the things forward that we can fund for the next year. So I'm thinking the pickleball courts will probably be funded, the markings. So that should make people happy who are pickleballers.
There's a lot of them.
There's none of us.
Road Committee?
Road committee meets November 8th.
Planning and zoning report.
Well, I mean, you drive around, there's lots of stuff going on, right, which is good. So the Honor Credit Union is just about enclosed. The new daycare facility is just about enclosed. Panera Bread and Texas Roadhouse, Panera Bread's a little bit ahead of the game there. One thing of note is that the extension of that deceleration lane was made by the developer going into both Panera Bread and Texas Roadhouse, so they'll be buttoning that up. They did utilize a lot of concrete on that site for, I guess, ease of use, plus they have Fraco there to demonstrate concrete use. But I'll be meeting with a developer who's interested in taking advantage of the new recreation or residential TIF legislation that's been approved, and that'll be a discussion about the 40-acre piece that's up the hill from Fish and Wildlife. That'll be in first week of November. So there's a developer from downstate who's done a number of beautiful developments, multifamily residential, who has a daughter going to NMU and was looking for a project in this area. So we've had several meetings with him and his team, and we'll have another more formal one coming up here in the first week of November.
Wouldn't be Robertson Homes, would it?
Nope.
Okay.
The gentleman actually is well-placed in the residential development community and had a hand in writing the legislation for this new tool, this residential TIF creation. So I don't know how much of a TIF they'll really need. All the utilities are running right down Venture Drive, so that's a positive thing. We're set up well from a zoning and utility standpoint for the remaining developable land that we have zoned for that type of land. I had a chance to go into the former Best Buy building. They're waiting for some air exchangers and some other things, but Up North Adventure, I think it is, they hope to be fully in and open within a month, around the Black Friday timeframe, I think. It's a massive building inside there without anything in it. You could have several football games going on in there. But there was just, some items going on, but they've done a wonderful job of revamping that interior.
Is that what it is, indoor recreation?
No, they sell like snowmobiles and
Oh,
boats
okay,
and
okay.
quads and the like. And then there's a number of things people are trying to button up or get their projects enclosed, whether it's residential additions and garages and things of that nature.
What's that, is there a big pile of dirt right at the intersection of Commerce and Wright on the right-hand side? Just opposite, you got that housing, that office development we approved on the left side, but what's that big pile of dirt there? What's going on there?
So Oberstar may be doing some, taking materials off this site where the daycare is done and putting them over on that site temporarily. Or they may be trying to balance that site out, because I know that they cut it a little bit to fill on the other side where the offices were.
So that property owner that owns the office owns the other side too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, site balancing.
All right.
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's lots of other little things going on, but of note.
Okay. Any announcements from anyone? Any more public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Lynn Durant, 265 Bishop Woods Road. While I'm the supervisor, I don't have that hat on right now when I'm in here. But I do want to share a couple things that is public knowledge that the board has accomplished and is working on. You'll be seeing Runaveri, I'm hoping. The last I talked to Shannon, maybe April. So for the workforce housing type conversation, township has to have a balance of, not all workforce, not all expensive, not all middle class. We're trying to balance this out. So hopefully they'll be coming to you with something that'll address that. You know that they have an option to purchase on our property over by Schwemmwood, and that's the property they're looking at, that 5 acres.
When do you think they'll be
She said
contacting us?
our option to purchase with them is up in April next year. So she was hoping to have something to us by then, whether it's, plans or conversation, I don't know what. They, if you remember, don't have any monetary input. They get funding from other sources.
Right.
I know they've worked extensively. I've been to one meeting with them with MEDC and QPAD and CAM, and all of those groups try to figure out how to get federal money, state money, grants, and everything else. So that's taking them a while to figure out how to put all this money together to do the project.
Well, Invest UP has some, Marty Fatante has some heavy input into that.
He does, but that's more,
That's at 15.
there's 2 parts to that. That could be another whole meeting, and maybe Jason could give you an update on that at one point. But most of their money, in fact, that I actually talked to Marty 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, about borrowing money from them to fix the road. I was going to address some of the road questions too, if I can do it in 3 minutes. But that would be
I think you'll get more than 3 minutes, Lynn.
that would be a low-interest loan that the township could do with Invest UP.
No more than 2%, something like that.
Yeah.
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 When you say Renovari is going to get with us, are they talking like maybe having a preliminary discussion about
I don't know, yeah. She just said, I hope to have something to you by April.
Okay.
Because regardless, we have to do something. The board will either have to renew that option, or they'll have a purchase agreement, or down payment, or something. Something will have to happen in April.
I guess what I'm asking is that some of us, I speak only for myself, I was underwhelmed by the preliminary plan that they gave, because it really was very unimaginative, and they did a much more imaginative plan for the marketplace at Munising, combining commercial on the bottom with housing on the top, and smaller units that would be by market force cheaper. They would be below 300,000. So I think it'd be good if we had an opportunity before they come in and say, oh yeah, here's the same thing we just gave you, you know, here, take it or leave it. We could just, because it's the same architect and that they used in Munising. And their Munising design was much more modern, planning looking.
True, yeah. That took 5 years to get a purchase agreement, so I
Well,
would
they're
hope
rentals.
we don't have to wait that
Well,
long.
they're rentals, but you could sell a studio condo. You could sell a one-bedroom condo that was 750 square feet. That would go for, you know, under $300,000 by market price. You know, that's my concept anyway, but I'd like an opportunity to explore it with those people, because I was very impressed by what they did there, and anyway, just my one point of view.
Sure. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what they come up with in April. I think I would guess, I think the date is the 6th or something like that, April 6th or 8th, something like that. So it'd
Well, we
have to
got
be
time.
on our agenda, or maybe it'll hit you first. I don't know. It's possible.
Thank you.
But I did want to let you know that I've had, well, I go to all the road commission meetings, and we also have a quarterly supervisors and road commission relations meeting that's a little more relaxed, and the supervisors can talk to the road commission about individual projects they have. I did ask him about Commerce Drive and if that was going to be done, and he said it is. And I think it's just that part by the fire department. I'm not positive. I think that's supposed to be done in the spring, so that was good news. But in fact, I got up a couple meetings ago and said, I just want you to know that we are pursuing the safety of that intersection, and we're going to do whatever we can to get it done. I mean, as much as we can, that we don't own the roads, like Jason said. I've also had meetings with the partnership, the LSCP, the sheriff. Jen Hill's office called me Thursday, wanted to know what was going on. I said, well, the board is still committed to getting that intersection fixed. We're looking at TIFs, we're looking at the DDA helping us, we're looking at Invest UP, Marty Fatanti, I talk to him on a regular basis. We had Andrew in here last week, talking to her from the county side. The heck is that? What is it called, Jason, that deals with the blight? that Ann does?
Brownfield.
Brownfield, yes. I went to a meeting with, can't think of her name. She's newly appointed. Was that actually a Barrel and Beam? I'm trying to refresh my memory. Anyway, somebody from Lansing that announced that the Brownfield Authority regulations were going to be relaxed, and maybe at some point, and this was in a public meeting, that those funds could be used for infrastructure, which could include roads. So if you remember, I told you this before, it's probably been 4 or 5 years now, and the township board went out for road commission, put our name in for a safety loan, or a grant through the state, and I think the amount was $150,000 that could be used, and we put that intersection on our list to get the grant. What we didn't know was that the road commission had done the same grant for that same intersection. So what you see now is that result of them getting that loan or that grant for $150,000. If you remember what that intersection looked like, it didn't have the passing and the turning lanes that it did. It's wider now. So we started talking about this back then, and we've talked about it. I've talked to, in fact, I talked to McBroom last Thursday, Senator McBroom. Jen Hill was Thursday, Jen Hill's meeting. And I'm saying the same thing. We have been looking at this intersection for years. It's going to get fixed. This board is committed to fixing that intersection. It doesn't matter if Longyear goes through or not. We're going to fix that intersection. So if that's not enough of a guarantee for you, that's about all the township board can give you, is that our commitment to do something with it. We have to. Because of any development, NTN would love to have some help with that whole stretch. I've had numerous people come up to the board meetings and public comment and say that they are taking their lives in their hands going across that road. We know it's an issue. We're gonna work on it. We've got a lot of resources that we can tap into. It just may take a while. And I've said all along that maybe just the timing, maybe the fact that development is occurring even at Commerce on this side helps us to spur whatever legislation we need to get something to happen. I know there's another senator who has a project in the works that he's trying to push through. There's a road project, a component of that, and McBroom said he'd look at it and see if he could partner us in. We've taken a $10 million project from the Road Commission's perspective and made it somewhere around 3, because it's just, we're just focusing on that intersection. So is that more appealing than 10? Absolutely. Is something gonna happen maybe in the spring with the release of money? Senator McBroom thinks there is. You know, it's a crapshoot. I hate to say there's no guarantees, but there aren't. But I just wanted to re-stress that we're gonna do what we can. It's not a done deal. And if for some reason they don't go, we're still gonna do it. It still has to be done. Maybe put stoplights up or signs or something, I don't know, but we'll come up with something. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? All right. Any additional comments by planning commissioners? No? Okay. Meeting adjourned.